Hello and welcome to the GA update. Looks like we've got a few attendees, so I'm going to go ahead and give you all a few more minutes before we get started. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll get started here in just a few more minutes. Okay, and it looks like we can go ahead and get started. So good afternoon, everyone. This is Blondley, the Cdbgcv Program Manager. Welcome to the Fall GA update. Before we get started, we'll be going over a few housekeeping items just to ensure that your experience is great. So for this G update, it's provided with Teams Live. So while you're using Teams Live, you will not be able to use your audio or video. So to ask a question, please use the chat function. Additionally, if you're having any issues connecting, please contact Jana Hertier. Here's her contact information to go ahead and email her if you're having any technology issues. All right, and so to ask a question, if you're an attendee and want to ask a question, just select the Q&A on the right side of the screen. The Q&A, well, the type of question in the compose box and then select send. If you want to ask your question anonymously, then select anonymously. So here's how to use that function. And then as a reminder for to get GA update credit, so due to technology limitations with Microsoft Teams, we're unable to mark attendance. So if you need credit for the GA update, please fill out the form. I will make sure to send that form to you all throughout the GA update. I will also ensure to email you all, and you will have until the end of business to fill out that form. So just keep that in mind to get credit for this GA update. So over the course of this G update, we'll update you on the following. So CDBG team has a few updates. Community affairs team, we're going to go over the strategic initiatives as well. And then grant services will also have a few updates for you. But before we get started with the actual content, I have a quick message from Christmas Hudgens, the CDBG program director.
1 second here, Belinda. You got just a wee bit ahead of me. Good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully, you can hear me pretty well. So first, I just wanted to personally express my appreciation to everyone here for your efforts during the past few weeks. I know there have certainly been some difficulties and some obstacles, certainly some that stretched and challenged us more than others, but the collective passion and commitment of this group to serve communities is so evident in those moments, and for me, incredibly motivating. I firmly believe that anyone who sets out to achieve something still does better than those who don't even strive, and that's what I'm confident we're all doing, striving forward to the best of our ability. And so I just wanted to personally thank you for your help in navigating the recent changes to our calendar events. I wanted to say thank you for the work that you do alongside OCRA and grant services on behalf of our rural communities, and just for your ability to stay focused on the goal and not the hurdles, and for all of the work that you do to transform relationships and to just enhance shared outcomes through that collaboration and that commitment to collaboration. So we hope you get to have a little fun today. I will say that in the interest of building goodwill, I know we've got a lot of open programs right now and a lot of folks still working to catch up because of the recent delays to the calendar. And so it is not our intent to keep you for very long today. We wanted to be able to give you some of that time back if we could, while still sharing with you some kind of high priority need to know updates. But for the most part, we're going to try to wrap things up early today, still give you that full CE credit for your attendance, and then we'll look forward to seeing you at the next event. So please let us know if you have any questions along the way, and just know that you are appreciated. And with that, I think we are ready to go ahead and to dive into some of the content. Okay. So starting with the CAPER. As many of you know, a couple weeks ago, we put out the public notice that our Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report covering the previous fiscal year, it's submitted to HUD annually at the end of September. It is now up for public comment to ensure that we are meeting all of the goals and objectives outlined in our Consolidated and Action Plan. You will find a description of that progress, and a summary of the use of such funds during the preceding fiscal year. So essentially a detailed financial and beneficiary information that kind of outlines how we're carrying out our housing and community development strategies, not just for CDBG projects, but for home, HOPWA, Housing Trust Fund, ESG. All of that is encompassed in that CAPER. And so please know that in the interest of transparency, we'd love to hear from you, any thoughts, insights, any feedback that you have on that report before we go ahead and finalize it and submit it to HUD. It'll be open for the next couple of weeks. It was posted on the 15th, but there is reporting available in several key areas as far as like our expenditures, how much money communities have obtained and used, not just from OCRA, but from other federal, state, local, and private sources for each CDBG activity. So we do keep track of any leverage or any match that we're able to take advantage of as part of our CDBG funding. You'll find information on persons, household, businesses affected by CDBG funds, income level, all of those things that show how we're meeting and executing those major initiatives, and any highlights that were proposed and executed throughout the program year. So looking forward to making sure that we hear from you on that, and it is available on our CDBG Consolidated Plan and Action page. Next slide, please. So as you know, we do have the updated calendar of events available on our website. I've gone ahead and included a screenshot here because I know that our website is not always incredibly intuitive or easy to navigate. That is the unfortunate side effect of being a state agency. We don't necessarily have full-scale control over that interface, and so we work with what we've got. You can access the calendar by going to OCRA's homepage, opening up that menu navigation on the left. There should be a little waffle here at the top left of your screen that opens up the newsroom. If you open up the newsroom, it'll open a drop down, and that's where you will be able to find our calendar. All of the revised CDBG dates for the rest of the year are there. And then a little bit into the next year, we are working on that calendar for next year, and we will be releasing that in accordance with our usual practice sometime around November, December, so that you can kind of begin planning. Next slide, please, Belanley. So some important round 2 updates. These are just kind of the key kind of need to know items. So the official announcement opening the round will go out tomorrow. Eligible programs will be wastewater, drinking water, public facilities, including historic preservation this time. So historic preservation has now been added back as an open activity under public facilities. Stormwater improvements and blight clearance will be open for this round. As far as feedback meetings for round 1, you should have already heard from your CL. For those of you with unfunded communities, you should have already heard from CLs in your district, the CL in your district, regarding scheduling for feedback meetings. They have been asked to prioritize communities who do intend to apply for round 2, so that we can get that technical assistance out to them in a timely manner in time for it to be incorporated into their proposal draft. CLs, of course, in accordance with our usual practice, will provide attendees with copies of the score sheet, along with comments from the scoring committee. Keep in mind the CEO does need to be in attendance for that meeting. Very, very important that the CEO or another member of the council, if for some reason the CEO is just unavailable and it is creating scheduling problems that would result in long-term delays getting you that feedback, let us know. And we will work with you. We would consider another member of the council, ideally in this circumstance, the vice president, who would then be able to stand in their place to receive that feedback, but very important that you keep that in mind. CLs are going to not only provide updates on with comments from the scoring committee, but they're also going to come prepared with specific TA and examples to help the community incorporate and address those comments in the subsequent proposal or in a future proposal. Our goal is always to be collaborative. In my experience as a community affairs manager, this conversation is always most productive when it is an authentic conversation with the community and the GA, and it is something that we're able to turn into an active brainstorming session where we are identifying ideas and insights and potential solutions alongside one another to improve and to adjust that application. So please let us know how we can continue to improve that process. Feedback meetings are an important opportunity from our perspective to help communities and GAs during the meeting. We want you to leave the meeting with actionable steps that you can take to improve the application. So things that you can actually do instead of only just a general idea of what to do next. We want to promote the expertise of the CLs and help build up your faith and confidence in their ability to be a consistent and trustworthy source of information on CDBG. And of course, there are nuances and details that I may not have thought of, but if you have any questions at all, just let us know. We just want to ensure that you feel supported and heard through all of it. So let me know if there are places where you'd like to have more strategic support on things like that, and we can talk through what that looks like. Next slide, if you don't mind, Belanley. Oh, you can go back. So a couple of recent questions that have come up in relation to round 2. I did get a question earlier this week about the duplication of benefits form with the proposal or the application. Just a reminder, I think that program update went out May 13th of this year, so you may refer back to it if you need to, but we are no longer requiring applicants to submit duplication of benefits forms unless you are using ARPA or some other federal allocation as match for the project outlined in the application. Since we were able to determine that ARPA was eligible match, you can come in with ARPA as your match funding source, but you will need to submit that duplication of benefits form. If you're not using ARPA or you're not using some other form of federal allocation as match, then you do not need to worry about that in GMS. So, and that's true for planning as well, in case any of you were curious. If you are needing information on the new income survey process, that policy, which took effect on the 5th of June, is on our CDBG policies page. We do also have the EGMS technical guide, which will be updated with information on the new income survey process within the next few business days. That is located on our GMS resources page. If you do run into hurdles, encounter challenges, have questions related to this process, please let Belanle know, and she will work with you to navigate the system and to navigate any challenges or questions that come up in relation to getting an income survey reviewed and that pre-income survey data approved so you can begin work on that. Next question or next slide, Belanle. Quarter 4 planning, that opened up on the 15th. We are open for all of our typical plan types with the exception of downtown revitalization. That is still under a moratorium while we work to update that in conjunction with future MSRP updates. But water utility infrastructure, comprehensive economic recovery, broadband readiness planning, public facility feasibility studies, economic development, environmental assessment, and historic preservation plans are once again open and eligible for planning grant applications. Those will be due on October 14th. So make sure that you are planning accordingly for that and that you get those applications submitted technically by 11:59 p.m. in accordance with our usual practice. But as always, we encourage you try to shoot for 4 o'clock, because if you run into a system, an issue with EGMS, or a challenge with the system itself, we want to make sure that one of our system admins is available to you so that you can get assistance navigating any such hurdles. I will say that we do have a number of system admins available to assist with that. So your CL should still be your primary point of contact for any questions related to EGMS or to any system needs. What they will do is they will review that request and they will filter it to a general inbox that we have available to our system admins so that whoever's first available to tackle that challenge is able to get to it. That way we can get you timely responses to any needs that come up. I can usually navigate most things. There are some things that only system admins have access to. So I shouldn't be your first up, but I have been able to kind of troubleshoot some questions that have come up. So if you're having issues, I'm always a secondary point of contact for that as well, and I'd be happy to direct your question here internally appropriately to make sure we get that answer for you. Next slide. One big change for quarter 4 planning that I wanted to make sure that I took some special time to highlight is that new planning grant procurement policy. So that became effective as of August 15th. So if you haven't figured it out already, that means that for quarter 4 planning, you will need to procure prior to submitting an application in GMS. Hopefully you have started that process already. The exact policy, if you'd like to see it, is on our CDBG policies page. Again, if you encounter challenges, if you have specific questions, I know Grant Services is going to provide you with some updates on procurement, general procurement updates. I don't know if any of them are specific to QBS because I'm kind of blanking on the conversation Adam and I had this morning, but if you do have questions, whether it's related to planning grant procurement or procurement for construction grants, just let us know and we'll help you navigate those as well as we can. But I did want to highlight that for quarter 4 planning, and in response to your feedback, we've moved procurement back to before application, so that will be in play for quarter 4. And the instructions have been updated accordingly as well. So if you've taken a look at those, you've likely made that connection already. Go ahead, Belanle, and move us to the next slide. OOR. So we did open a second round of the 2021 OOR pilot on the 15th as well. We have not made any significant program changes, no changes at all really from the original pilot. So non-entitlement local units of government, we still have that 3-year demonstrable experience requirement. So the local unit of government and the grant administrator need to have 3 years of experience administering a local owner-occupied rehabilitation program in order to apply. You will have to upload documentation of that experience as part of the application. It's a one-stage process. There's no proposal draft. There's no site visit required. We did give you a little bit of extra time on this. The due date will be October 28th. So that you have time to get everything together, a little extra time, since we weren't necessarily anticipating a second round of the OOR pilot originally, but certainly it has been an important topic of discussion here over the last few months, so this seemed like a good time to roll that out. In accordance with our usual programming, no unresolved findings or overdue documents. The max grant request is going to be $250,000. I have gotten some questions about whether this will apply to that cap on the number of open applications that a community has available to them. That's not applicable here. So normally our standard practice with pilots is that for communities that are coming in and are willing to take part in that pilot process with us so that we can learn and make improvements from their experience administering that particular program, we do not count that against them as far as that limit on the number of open regular round applications that they can have. So that would not be an issue. In this case, that particular cap is waived for this pilot. There is a 10% match requirement, and you will have to hold a public hearing before application. The second public hearing does not take place until after the community program is completed. The administration process is going to mirror our current construction model, and you can find a full checklist for pre-release of funds and release of funds items on our website. If you do have any specific questions related to OOR, let us know. We'll be happy to provide technical assistance and some of the nuances related to this type of program and the normal cap of 8% of the grant request for admin services. But we have not made any changes to the eligible activities. And of course, the national objective is LMI housing. So if you would like a one-pager or anything that you might be able to use to share with communities to just kind of give them general information about OCRA's pilot program for OOR, we'd be happy to share that with you as well. Let us know. Our OOR website has been updated with all of this information as well. There is also a pre-recorded webinar from last year that you can access that walks through all of this as well. So, Belonley, if you want to move us ahead to the next slide. With that, I'm just going to hand it off to Pam so that Pam Guerrero, our CDBG Program and Policy Analyst, so that she can give you a quick update on what we are doing with what we have done with our COVID-19 response program, our CARES Act funds, and what we will be doing with the funds that we have remaining. Pam?
Thank you, Christmas, and hello, everybody. My name is Pamela, and I am mostly here to do everything COVID related. So kind of just a snapshot of COVID-19 response program. The background of this, we launched this program in April 2020. And it was pretty much to address the immediate impacts of COVID-19 across rural Indiana, as well as non-entitlements and entitlement communities. The CARES Act did provide waivers that allow us to assist both entitlements and non-entitlement communities. And this really quick snapshot of where we are and how we did all of this. OCRA awarded a total of 191 grants to 142 communities. This was a total of $38 million in funding from 3 rounds of COVID, and more than 600,000 people across the state were able to benefit from this program. Could we move to the next slide, please? Oh, something I forgot to mention. I am currently in the process of contacting GAs and different communities that participated during the COVID-19 program, and I'm collecting just success stories, and we're planning to incorporate some of those stories into our website as well as to our GA trainings, just to highlight those efforts and just show the stories of all these communities. I have had the opportunity to interview 4 communities so far, and the stories are just great. And I'm really enjoying that. Okay, so now to the Cdbgcv Toolkit. So this is a new resource that is currently available on our website. as well as a new page for the CARES Act that provides information on just the background of the funding, as well as how the CV Toolkit works. So while the CARES Act was getting assigned to us, HUD also issued a rule that provided additional flexibilities on the use of CARES funding. So the CV Toolkit does a really good work at summarizing some of those flexibilities and requirements that apply to this funding. So if you are a GA that will be assisting any health communities, this will be a really useful resource for you all to use so that you also are aware of those additional changes. So this toolkit can be found on our website, as well as the Help Enduring Legacy Program website. And yeah, and that's all of my updates from me. Thank you.
Yes, and welcome, Pamela. For any questions about CDBG CV, please contact Pam Guerrero. Here's her contact information. So super excited that you're here.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to go ahead and jump into community affairs. So we had a few staffing updates, so we just wanted to make you all aware of the community affairs team. Again, we have Neil Elkins, the community affairs director. We have Jerry White, the community Northwest community liaison. We have Allie Daughtry, which is the Northeast community liaison. We have our new CL, Garrett Conway, community liaison, East Central. We have Kathy Dayhoff Dwyer. She's the community liaison for the Southeast region. Jill Hahn, she's the community liaison for the Southwest. And then lastly, Sarah Frodeman, she's the community liaison for West Central. But we do have Garrett on the call. So he's just going to share a few minutes, introduce himself. Garrett, take it away.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Sure can.
Perfect. First of all, I want to say hello to everyone who's on this call. It's a pleasure to get to know you over the future of my career here with OCRA. I'm super excited to get to work with y'all and making sure that we provide the best service as possible for these communities and for the communities that are near and dear to you and to us as well. This is my first month here. I just surpassed my first 30 days here with OCRA. Learning as I go. There's a lot of acronyms. I'm sure you know, about 6 pages worth in the handbook, but I'm sure realistically it's more like 10. I am the representative, the community liaison for East Central Indiana. So if you don't know where that is, we have a map available on our website. Essentially, it runs from Howard County all the way down to Franklin County. It includes portions of Marion County, including Washington, Warren, and Lawrence townships, that sort of northeast corner of Marion County. My experience has been in public policy. I used to work with the CRE, that think tank over at IU. It's where I got my undergraduate, and I just recently finished my master's at Michigan State in legal analysis. So I got a lot of book experience. I got a lot of studying experience, and now it's just putting that experience to boots on the ground and getting to work with y'all to make sure that we provide the best for our communities here in Indiana.
All right, and thanks so much, Garrett, for the introduction. We really appreciate you having you here as well. So thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, and now we have also a familiar face, but a little bit newer to GA updates. Alex Taylor, please take it away.
Thank you, Belanley. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I have the pleasure of presenting on the Strategic Initiative Team's updates today. I first of all wanted to remind everyone of who our team members are. We do have Andrea Kern, who is our Director of Strategic Initiatives. We are blessed with 2 Abigails on our teams. We have Abigail Chapman, who is the Indiana Main Street Outreach Manager, Abigail Huff, who is the Indiana Main Street Senior Program Manager, and then myself, I am the Community and Economic Development Manager. Next slide, Belanley. All right, before we get started on any of our updates, I did want to highlight Abigail Chapman on the right-hand side of the screen. Abby was with us about 1.5 years ago and has returned as the IMS Outreach and Education Manager, so we are very excited to have her aboard. A little bit about the strategic initiatives teams and what we've been working on. First up is our Historic Renovation Grant Program, also known as HRGP. We're going to try to minimize acronym usage, but that is what that stands for. The deadline for obtaining a certificate of approval was on August 28th, 2022 for this program. Applications for this program are due to OCRA by October 15th, 2022. The next program we're going to briefly speak about is our Preserving Main Street program. We do plan on reopening this program in 2023. We are working furiously on creating new guidelines, things of that nature, so please stay tuned as we work through that, and we will present that information out to the communities as well. Third up on our docket is our Rural Opportunity Zone Initiative program. So we are actively working with the Purdue Center for Regional Development and to create a self-guided course in order to create an investment prospectus for the development of infrastructure on those opportunity zones, okay? So that is what we have been working on with those 3 programs. Alonli, please, next slide. 2 other programs I'm going to mention is first our Indiana Main Street program. This program is a bulk of what our team does. It encompasses a large amount of communities throughout the state. Applications are currently open for communities interested in becoming a Main Street community, specifically an ODAN community. Additionally, applications are open for our ODAN communities wishing to level up. We are calling that the Aspiring IMES level. So if you're interested in any of that, please contact either of the Abbies or Andrea or myself, and we will share some information with you. Additionally, Main Street America has rolled out their new accreditation standards, and those will go into effect in January of 2024. We are working with our Main Street communities on transitioning to those new standards so that we are all on the same page moving forward when those standards do go into place. Lastly, with regards to Main Street, the income and salary survey results, those will be published in late September and early October for your use. The last program I'm going to speak about today is the Hoosier Enduring Legacy program. This is one of the programs that I personally am working on. Cohort 1, consisting of the Northeast region of the state, is currently developing their strategic investment plan. And this is in collaboration with Purdue Center for Regional Development. The goal is to create this plan to cause legacy projects in the Northeast region of our state. The second point is Cohort 2, which is the Southwest area of our state. They are currently focused on the first half of the program, which emphasizes both team building and community engagement for the development of teams to create projects and programs. Next slide, please. And that is all I have, Belanli. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And to round us off, we have Adam Michelle from Grant Services. So.
Thank you, Blondley. I just have a couple quick updates here from Grant Services today. First of all, in case you're not aware, Michelle Hansen is no longer with Grant Services. So please contact a different member of Grant Services if you're looking for something. Catherine is taking over some of the labor things that she worked on before, and Bryce is taking over some of the modifications. If you go to the CDBG Handbook and Forms page at the very top, there is a link that says Grant Services contact information. And it will have a nice little handy chart about who's in charge of what in Grant Services. So please use that to stay updated on who you need to contact for various things. Couple quick items to touch up on. Both of these have to do with closing out. When you're closing out one of your grants in the GMS system, if you get a message that pops up saying that you are deobligating funds, please be aware that what that is indicating is that one of your claims has not been fully paid out. You can go ahead and proceed with your closeout. It does not mean you're actually deobligating those funds. We are currently working on getting some of that language changed in that little pop-up. But as long as your final claim is in the system and it's been approved, you are good to go. Second of all, and when you're doing a closeout in the GMS system and you're entering your final beneficiaries, please be sure to create a whole new set of beneficiaries. What we're seeing a lot is people going in and just changing the initial beneficiaries to the final beneficiaries, which really doesn't work for us because then we lose the initial beneficiaries altogether. So please be sure that you're setting up a whole new set of beneficiaries and marking it as final when doing a closeout in GMS. And I'm going to turn this over to John real fast. He's going to have some updates about procurement.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is John Hayden with Grant Services. Just going to give a couple updates as well as go over some information that we already have in regards to our procurement process. Just making sure that everyone can hear me. Okay, so the first thing to start off with is our the process for pre-release of funds and release of funds for the procurement of grant administrators. We've run into this a couple times recently, and what we're asking is that you communicate with your communities to make sure that when they're soliciting for the grant administrators, that they're only using the grant administrators that are certified by OCRA. So OCRA actually on their website has a list of current GAs that are certified by them. However, what we've been running into is a couple times during the pre-release and release of funds process, I'm finding that communities had reached out to administrators that are on the IDOA, Indiana Department of Administration website, because IDOA has a list that has their own certification of MEB, WEB, and IVBE businesses, but not all of them are certified through us. So please make sure that the communities are using the list supplied by OCRA. For all other contract types, engineer, prime contractor, so you probably heard me say IVBE, which is the Indiana Veteran Business Entity. Housing and Urban Development is now allowing for IVBE or veteran business entities to be included in the 2 solicitation minimum. So along with your MEB and WEB, you can now reach out to IVBE. The IDOA list does have businesses that are indicated with IVBE. The IDOA spreadsheet does update consistently, actually it updates every week with businesses becoming certified and expiring weekly. Just as a practice, we do recommend going forward to take a screenshot showing proof that the certification, or at the time of solicitation, there was proof of certification, just as safekeeping for any future monitorings or for the release of funds process if you're soliciting and then you have a period of time before you actually upload the stuff for release of funds. Just a last note, for supplying advertisement for the release of funds process, we are looking for proof that the advertisement ran. In our handbook, it currently says proof of publication, which is a term that newspapers use as a proof sheet, something that they use to make sure that all the wording is correct before it goes to print. What we're looking for is actual proof that it print. So we're looking for newspaper clippings, screenshots of the digital advertisement being run on their website. Both these newspaper clippings and screenshots of the digital site are accepted and we'll be more than willing to take the digital versions. But again, we need to be able to see that the news actually ran. We've run into a couple of occasions recently where an affidavit was provided, they paid for it, but then when we actually went to at the monitoring, learned that the paper didn't actually run the ad. So that's why we're looking for an actual proof of it being printed as opposed to the publisher's proof or just a Word document showing that what the intended language is going to be. That's all I have for now. And then please let me know if you have any other questions or if you have any other things you need to know about for your release of funds. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much. Did Grant Services have any other updates before we start to conclude this GA update?
I think that's all we have at this time, Blonde. Thanks.
All righty. So thank you all for presenting on your various updates. Thanks to CDBG team, thanks to Community Affairs, Strategic Initiatives, and also Grant Services. So I will now go ahead and send in the announcement the form, the link to confirm that you watched the G update. So I will send that. And while I'm pulling that link up and putting it in the announcement, we'll now take time to address questions, and you can go ahead and send those in the Q&A.
If it would be helpful, Belanle, because I'm not sure if everybody is able to access the Q&A or not. So for those who haven't, I'm happy to share some of the questions that we have published. Most of the questions pertain to OOR. The first was how a grant administrator goes about getting 3 years of experience. They would have had to have secured that experience through the previous OOR program administered by IHCDA. The allocation for this funding round, we had originally allocated $2 million for the program in 2021. Last year we awarded $939,000, so our goal is going to be to spend all remaining $800,000+ of the 2021 funds. As far as how many applications that would allow us to fund, honestly, it's nothing I could reliably predict. Our goal is to expend it all, but that's honestly going to depend on the number of fundable applications we receive. Applications still have to score at least 450 to be fundable in accordance with our normal grant evaluation criteria. So we will score them using the questions provided in the instructions, and then depending on the scores, we'll rank and we'll move down the list until we run out of funds. Depending on the need we see, it is always possible that we may have returned funds, deobligated funds, or unexpended funds from prior years that we could pull forward and into this particular pilot program as well if needed. But our priority is going to be those 2021 funds. And then someone else asked about the documentation to show that a community has 3 years of prior experience with OOR. I'm pretty open on this. In the prior round, we had communities submit a list of their prior IHCDA OOR awards with details on the year of the award, the grant amount, the match amount, the grant number, the number of homes rehabbed, any issues. So any monitorings, any findings, any issues that came up and whether or not they were resolved. One community sent that to us in an email that they converted into a PDF and sent. Another uploaded it as a Word doc in a table that they created. We also saw communities share program materials that they've used in the past, copies of past communications, local announcements, publications, announcing the availability of those funds locally for homeowners. So there's a number of ways that you can do that. I would say specifically that list of prior IHCDA awards would be the most substantial evidence of that experience that you could provide and the easiest for us to corroborate. So hopefully that answers the questions related to OOR. I did get a question about historic preservation and whether it will include covered bridge projects. Not at this time. And I would be interested in talking more. I'd have to look into whether that was an eligible activity and talking more about what, if any, need there is for something like that before we considered including it in future rounds. I don't think we have historically, but I'm always open to conversation. But as of right now, no, that's not an eligible activity. It looks like we have some additional questions, Belanle, but that's what we have in the chat right now if you want to.
Sure thing. So looks like I sent a link in the announcement. However, I'm noticing that some of you are having some issues, and that's fine. I will make sure to follow up after this GA update with the link in email format, and then you'll be able to go ahead and sign in. So again, I do want to apologize for that if you weren't unable to use the link, but we will make sure to send an additional email out to you all to go ahead and confirm your attendance by the end of business today. So thank you so much for that. Looks like we do have a few other questions. Person would like a copy of the presentation. Yes, so we'll be recording this. A GA update is being recorded right now, so we will again upload that to YouTube. But we can also provide the presentation on the website. We've done that before, so we would love to go ahead and we'll provide that to you as well. Looks like we're getting a few more questions about opportunity zones, so I'm going to go ahead and let you all tackle those, and we'll get ready to close soon. So.
Well, Omni, I can jump in real quick. For the Rosie program, it's going to be a self-guided course. So there will be a fee where a community will enroll, and the course will walk you through what an opportunity zone is, what is the investment structure that has been created by the legislative branch, and kind of walk you through how to make a prospectus. So it'll be kind of a build your own adventure. And we will launch that once we get it finished with PCRD.
It looks like we also have a question about whether there is a list of parole opportunity zones by county available. Yes, that is on OCRA's website. We have a specific opportunity zone webpage that not only lists the rural opportunity zones, the designated rural opportunity zones we have here in Indiana, along with an interactive map that will allow you to search those designated census tracts within those communities. But we also have a comprehensive list of other resources available related to opportunity zones and the specific legislation that governs eligible projects, and how to set up qualified opportunity funds as a vehicle for qualified investment in opportunity zones. And so Alex is your point of contact for all of that, but yes, that is available on our website, and Pam was kind enough to go ahead and give you a direct link there in the chat. We also have a question related to preserving and a request for a brief overview of the Preserving Main Street program that we anticipate. We are still learning from this current pilot round of the Preserving Main Street program, and so I'm not able to map out what specific changes we anticipate for 2023, but that would be something, any proposed changes or adjustments based on what we've learned from the pilot communities would be something that we would incorporate into the 2023 action plan. And so it will be available for you to review and to provide comment on as part of that process, which would begin next March, most likely.
Christmas, I also will put the website for that, which kind of gives a little bit more information on what the program is, what's the goals, those kinds of things as well.
And the last question I see is related to OOR. If they only had one IHCA award, does that count for only 1 year? That's an excellent question. I think in the past we've required 3 awards, but let me make sure that that's how we've historically interpreted that before I tell you for sure. So for the person that asked that question, if you would follow up with me directly after this, give me a little time to research how we have historically applied that standard. If there's room for flexibility, we'll translate it into the second round. If not, then I'll be able to advise on what our expectations were.
If I can jump in here real fast, there is a question in here about SAM.gov. It says, what is OCRA doing about SAM.gov not updating community entities? So this is a federal website. This isn't something where OCRA can go in and make this process go faster. This is also a federal regulation, so this is not something that we can just wave off because it's irritating for communities, unfortunately. I mean, I would just suggest start as early as you can to get yourself registered. Check and see if you are registered. Make sure your community is staying on top of it. We have seen many, many communities successfully register. So this is not some system-wide thing that's preventing everybody from getting registered. We've seen construction groups get registered. We've seen communities get registered and so forth. So the communities really just need to stay on top of it if they're planning on applying for funding.
Okay, and any other questions? I just posted an updated link in the Q&A. So it should be listed as an announcement. Again, I will follow up with all of you with a link in the email as well if you are unable to use the link that I provided in the announcement. So and I'm not seeing any other questions. So did the team have anything else to say before we close out this GA update? Okay, and I'm not hearing anything from the team, so thank you all for attending this GA update. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me, to the CDBG team, to the Strategic Initiatives team. We have all of our contact information that we provided in the GA update. So thank you so much for attending.